the institute was started at a time when the government of Uganda wanted to sell some of its assets to the private sector for better management. This was the aura of privatization at the time.
And the parastatals were being privatized because of poor governance, and therefore they were not implementing the services that they're supposed to implement. Those were supposed to be profitable. There were losses instead. So there was poor governance, and out of a World Bank recommendation, government started the privatization process. And it's about that time, and we've got a lot of support from the World Bank as well as from Bank of Uganda.
Later on, that unit grew, and it was decided that we start an institute, an independent institute, to help government establish practices, systems of managing private sector, the assets taken over by the private sector in particular, but also in general, the enhancement of good corporate governance in the country at large. So we got one official called Vincent Kaheru, who was released to us, the task force, the initial task force of 7. And with him we set up a secretariat, he being the secretary of that secretariat.
We started the institute in the year 1998, registered it in the year 2000, and hence making 20 years this year. It was out of that policy conference in London where all the Commonwealth participants were present, and we discussed this important idea, and then I was able to come back and make a presentation to my superiors. Luckily, the idea caught on very quickly, because at the time we were having funding from the World Bank, and the World Bank said, yes, what Mr. Kaheru is pushing for is what we would like for the country and for all our other partners that are doing business with us.
I was the CEO of Uganda Management Institute, and it draws a strong feeling among CEOs at that time that the institute, we should also create an institute of corporate governance. South Africa already had, UK had, and a number of other Commonwealth countries had the branches of the Institute of Corporate Governance.
Now, that task force was comprised of 11 people. We had our first chairman as Honorable Okecho, who was a director, formerly a director at Privatization Unit. We had the late Pius Mahemuka. So the task force did a good job of doing the paperwork, preparing for the institute to be on the ground. They were not being paid any allowances, but they were volunteering. But because they believed in the role that the institute would play, they selflessly made their contribution.
I think if you're Ugandan, you have heard of the language of Omugaga. It seems it is normal to cheat a Mugaga, somebody you call a Mugaga. Somebody will even challenge you and say, why do you mind if I'm making money?
We are naturally selfish as human beings. So the board members are there in this position, the executive directors and even the non-executive, to promote themselves, to get rich and to go for whichever holidays. Yet the shareholders put the money there to get their own value. So the issue of governance was to capture that part, because that's where you find there's a lot of malpractice. This company is a construction company. You bring your company to be the provider of construction services. Of course, you're going to inflate the money. So governance is about that, the culture, the values, integrity, honesty, responsibility, accountability. So there's a big constituent out there for ICDU that needs our attention.
Any country worth its salt must have good corporate governance at the private sector level, which will then translate itself to public sector management. One of the biggest problems we talk about in Uganda today is corruption, poor governance, inefficiency. All that would not be a big agenda item, a big topic, if we had serious attention paid to good corporate governance, best practice.
Best practice is the practice of performing activities in what we call the best way possible. For instance, one of the best practices we adopted was writing a strategic plan to give direction, to give vision. The next best practice is board evaluation. We insist on, as a best practice, to evaluate our board, not to find faults, but to find gaps, what we call gaps. The next one was what we call stakeholder engagement. We engage with the stakeholders so that we can bring them on our side. We can get them to help the institute. And the best practices that we continue to teach them through our monthly or quarterly public lectures. If you don't adopt best practice, there's only one route. It's just like if you don't pray and you don't recognize you are God, there is only one route, and that is the straight route to hell. Many institutions in America failed. Enron and so on failed. Enron was one of the best 10 companies. They used to fly presidents everywhere.
We are proponents of good corporate governance. So we have a few products which we offer. These are, one, for example, we concentrate on board training. So once a new board has been created, it is our responsibility and our duty to induct them. Then after induction, we can train in details. The board probably jointly with top management so that they can know how to play the politics in the boardroom. And after training you, we can help you to make a manual, what we call Corporate Governance Board Manual. These manuals are a good reminder also, always, of good practices. We also do evaluation at the end of every year. We encourage institutions to do self-evaluation. So we have tools which you can employ together with you, and you evaluate yourself. Now, because we are membership-based, we really encourage both individual members and corporate members to join us. There are very many benefits, and the benefits, apart from the training, is that we are now going into partnerships. For example, we are now a member of the African Corporate Governance Network. We are also in talks with the Asian Corporate Governance Association.
At the Institute of Corporate Governance, it's been our passion. It's been something we've pushed very strongly to ensure that corporate governance practices are adhered to. And over the last years, we've seen membership grow. Both individual and private membership have grown. We have over 700 members and individual members, and we've grown to over 120 members. We certainly need to grow our membership more than this. These are just a few, but good progress over the last years.
We had to grow our numbers as members because with a bigger base, you can be able to advocate for legislation in corporate governance. Then we would have a bigger voice once we have a bigger membership.
We've seen other local authorities, entities like URSBC, the Uganda Law Society, authorities like the Central Bank or Bank of Uganda, all of them being passionate and rallying behind good governance of companies and going concerns.
once they come on board as members, how do you enhance their experience? So we begin with training the individuals who are members of different boards for them to be able to appreciate the principles and practices of corporate governance.
We launched a magazine. That magazine, we called it Wealth Creation. It started off very well. It sold to the institutions in this country, and it became popular even outside this country. And the idea has been continued. I'm very proud that what we started is continuing in a more modern way, namely through the internet.
As chair of the Awards 2020, I felt the mandate was to recognize further those institutions that have excelled in corporate governance.
We've deepened awareness, and to this end, the Institute of Corporate Governance has arranged various seminars, workshops, forums to deepen awareness, to continue to sensitize people about the essence of corporate governance. COVID-19 has definitely disrupted us. But at the Institute of Corporate Governance, beyond adopting and embracing the SOPs, we've actually gone ahead to continue to reach out virtually using digital platforms. And we've seen many entities partner with the Institute of Corporate Governance to continue to increase awareness, to continue to train themselves and empower themselves. In fact, one of the key things that the Institute of Corporate Governance, and indeed the whole tenet and principle of corporate governance, is how you speak business continuity, is sustainability. And for me, all that comes from good corporate governance.
Currently, we are registered as a limited liability company, limited by guarantee. But we feel that it will be much better if it can be set up by an act of parliament, because we are borrowing this from our other sister member organizations, like the accountants, like the Law Society. It gives us more clout, okay, to talk to people without actually forcing, but our mandate will be strengthened by an act of parliament. What is happening now? A private member's bill is being processed in parliament. We give thanks to Honorable Cecilia Barbara Atim Ogwal, who is championing this. She has been a champion of corporate governance. She's actually championing it. We know the Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament has also said a word about it, and there are many other members of Parliament.
We now perhaps need to think of the youngsters. How do we encourage the youngsters to adopt best practice? Because they are the ones coming to run these institutions. What about corporate governance in schools? Are we satisfied that that corporate governance is being taught in schools?
This subject we are already discussing, for example, Makerere University Business School is with us. We are trying to look at how to develop curricula together with them. And then for the practitioners, we are also approaching the Curriculum Development Center and the National Council for Higher Education if they can accredit some courses. Now, when we reach that level, that we are teaching a few accredited courses by the National Council for Higher Education, then we shall also start offering our title ICG, that is Institute of Corporate Governance, to accompany the names of people who have qualified. So if I'm Bosco Kumu, who has done all those courses, then I can say Dyson Bosco Kumu, CIG.
All around us, we have institutes of directors. In Kenya, near us here, there is one as well. I'd like to see ICG change into that, so that before anybody goes on any board, have you gone through the hands of ICG? Have they certified that you can be a good director?
Would like the Institute of Corporate Governance to be the key platform for all governance-related attributes, for all corporate governance-related aspects, principles and practices. And we know it's very key for us to build strengthen our economy, to strengthen our companies, different companies, and that we'd like to achieve in partnership with you.
So we still have a long road, shall we say? But the good thing is we have started.